Good morning. We're excited to launch our Women in Business series today on International Women's Day. The 2021 theme for International Women's Day is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. As our communities and our world continue to battle, recover, and rebuild from the pandemic, we believe it's important to recognize and highlight female leaders who have used their skills and knowledge to help lead our company and our communities through this time.
So, Kathy, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So I am a proud farm girl from Western North Dakota. I was born and raised near a farm in Arnegard. Spent all my early years there. Subsequently attended the junior college in Williston before transferring to Dickinson State University. There I received double majors in banking finance as well as accounting. And then after that, along with my college sweetheart, we moved to Bismarck, and we've been calling Bismarck home ever since. So we moved here in 2000, have made careers and families in Bismarck. We are proud parents of 3 young children, ages 14, 10, and 7. So we're very busy in our children's lives and try to make a good, positive impact on the community that we're in.
So do you want to share a little bit about your career path to CEO?
Absolutely. So really my career path begins and ends with banking. In high school, our high school had a program where they tried to place students, almost an internship program, so that we could get a little bit of flavor of maybe where we wanted to put our college careers. So I was placed with a community bank and started there at the age of 16. And really they did a really good job of placing us all around the bank so that we could see the many different departments that make up banking and also get a better understanding of all the inner workings of how a bank really runs. So I did that in high school. And so then when I started college, it really made sense that I could find part-time jobs in banking. So I worked at a few different community banks while I was in college, anything from the teller line to new accounts to the lending department. So I really got a good background of everything that was going on. I ultimately decided to try something new. Once I got my degree in accounting, I wanted to try my hand at public accounting. So when I moved to Bismarck, I got a job at a regional public accounting firm in their auditing department. But ironically, I audited banks and trust departments and financial institutions because I had all this good background, and it made sense for me to use that background on auditing what I was familiar with. So I did that for 5 years, and at the time I really enjoyed it. I got my CPA designation and thought that long term that this is where I wanted to be. So I set my goal that I was going to be a partner at this regional accounting firm. So I did that for about 5 years, and ultimately my husband and I decided that it was time to start a family, and we really had to be thinking about if this was really the right fit for our family. With travel and work commitments, it made me wonder if I was in the right seat. Ironically, again, a former colleague from a bank called me up and wanted to know if I wanted to come work for American. I played hard to get for a few months, trying to align my past goals with what I wanted my current goals to be, and ultimately decided to make the move to American Trust Center. So I started that job in May of 2005, and I started as the administrative officer, which essentially was a little bit of everything. I handled human resources and marketing, finance and accounting, also compliance and the regulation part of it. And I really enjoyed it, and it gave me a really good background for understanding the inner workings of our company. Fast forward, and my former colleague who I reported to, he was the current president of American Trust Center, and he was moving on to another position within the company. And so I thought, well, why not? So I applied for that position, went through the interview process, and was not selected. So it was a little bit of an ego blow for me, but I still felt that American was the right place for me long term. So I was lucky enough that the individual that did get the position was another great person that continued to mentor me for a few more years before he ultimately moved on. So at that point, I had to decide if I was willing to put my ego back out there and apply for the position again. Thought about it long and hard and thought this is really something that I want to work towards. So even if it was just another good interview opportunity, I wanted to try again. So I did interview for the job and did get the notification that I received the job, that I would be the new CEO of American Trust Center. And I tell the story that I knew it was real when I got the call and I was in the middle of a diaper change for my daughter. And I thought, this is what my life is going to be like, so get ready.
So it sounds like maybe being a mom and working is a little bit of a challenge. What other challenges did you face along the way?
There's always going to be challenges. I do think women in general, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to not only be successful in our careers, but be very successful at home. And sometimes it feels like you can't do both or do justice to both. So I think we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace when it comes to that. There's going to be days where we're really good at our jobs and maybe things at home aren't as smooth as we'd like them to be. And I also think if you're with the right company and that same thing happens where maybe things are humming along at home, but something didn't quite go right at work, you have to be able to ebb and flow and just know that life is a balancing act, and not every day things are going to be balanced perfectly, but you have to really look at it as a whole. And so I think if we can all give ourselves a little bit of encouragement, not only to ourselves, but to our coworkers, male or female, it just makes things move a lot smoother.
Absolutely. So Kathy, do you have any skills that you've needed to develop to help move your career forward?
Absolutely. So I think the one thing that doesn't get enough justice is our soft skills. We talk a lot about, what you're going to put on the resume, what are, softwares, designations you have, certifications, but, all of that stuff in my mind can really be learned if you have the right supervisors and people surrounding you. You can do all that on your own, but the soft skills is something that you really need to work at. Listening, all those things that we've been hearing since we were in elementary school, they are real, and they do come down to how you can advance your careers. Those are just things to be keeping in mind. You hear the talk of emotional intelligence. It's a real thing. We joke around at work that if you don't know what that is, you're probably in trouble.
So who or what has shaped who you are throughout your life?
Yeah, I think absolutely. It's growing up. It's what you were surrounded with. If in my world, I had a great work ethic at home, and I saw how hard it was and how hard my parents worked as farmers to put food on the table and clothes on our backs and to make sure we had good educations, that we were able to have a little bit of fun at the end of the day. So it doesn't really matter what that ultimate job is that you have, but you have to have the work ethic to know that you are going to have to put a lot into it in order to get something out of it.
If you had to start over from scratch, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
I just had this conversation with my 14-year-old son. He's signing up for high school classes as we speak, and I had to talk him into taking speech. If that's one thing that I could tell anybody in that junior high school role, being able to talk, whether it's to one person or a group of people or a room of 100 or 1,000, if you can have the confidence to put your thoughts together and emulate that to more than one person, I just think there's so much benefit to that.
Oh, absolutely. So, what is one of the toughest decisions you've had to make, and how did it impact your life?
It's a good question. I'm going to be very honest that I've had a wonderful life. So when I think about something that gave me pause, it probably was the career change that I took. I'm a very type A personality, so once I have something put in my head from an achievement or a goal standpoint, I think that that's what I have to do. And it's sometimes hard for me to pivot. So when I had in my head at the age of 22 that I'm going to be a partner in an accounting firm and that's the end all be all, and then I had to to think that maybe my goals have to change, and sometimes those goals aren't necessarily career-minded goals, but maybe they're more based on, you know, your partner, your family, your children or future children. So for me, having to make the change to know that it was okay to change careers, to change jobs, to maybe even take a bit of a step back in my career in order to move forward long term, that was hard for me, but again, it was the right decision for me.
So you've mentioned some mentors at American. How have your mentors influenced your life?
That's an interesting question. Whether it's irony or not, most of my mentors have been male. And I don't say that to say that it's not females not supporting you, but I also think sometimes there's a stigma of men trying to help men get ahead. But like I said, some of my greatest mentors have been men that didn't see me as a female, or here's our quota female that we need to try and get ahead in the company. I honestly think they just saw me. We connected on a personality level. They liked the work that I was doing and saw something in me that maybe even I didn't see at the time. I never was the type of person that thought I would be a leader. I was a follower from day one. I had no problem taking an order and doing it to the best of my ability, but I definitely was not the person that wanted to be the one at the end of the day that had to make the call. That totally put me out of my comfort zone. But surprisingly, these mentors that I had, they were the ones that would push me, even without me knowing it, of making decisions and empowering me to do things that I didn't think that I could do. But at the end of the day, looking back, they pushed me in a really positive way.
Awesome. Similar to that, what leaders do you look up to and why?
I think I look at leaders that really have a good balance, and whether that's a work-life balance or just a balance with how they approach people. Some of the people that I've looked up to, so they have good family lives, whether it's partner, children, friendships. They haven't let that slack even though they've been successful at work. I think they're also a pillar in their community. It doesn't mean that they're filling in on every board and they're at every event across the city, but people know who they are because they've tried to make a difference in the community that they live in. And I also think the ones that I think of, they're respected at work. And it's because they have the respect of the receptionist, the first person that they see when they walk in, and they have the respect of the boardroom and everybody in between. I do think you just have to be at the level to know that you're the same as everybody else. You just maybe have to make some hard calls some days.
So what are some patterns that you've noticed over the years about women in the financial industry? What do you think women could do better to advance their careers? What are some strategies that can help them become more prominent in their roles?
So I think a lot of people, when they think about women in banking, they think of the teller roles. They think of some of the roles that have been there. They think of deposits and loans, and there's really not much else in between. And we all know, as the world is changing, that there's just a lot more opportunities for women. Technologies are changing. There's electronic services. I mean, thinking about our bank here, we have insurance products. We have the entity that I work for, which is wealth management and trust services. There's just so much more available. And I think women have to give themselves more credit that they're smart, that they're analytical, that they are relationship builders. And if they can do all those things, there's no reason that they can't do well in a male-dominated industry like banking.
Awesome. So what advice do you have for other companies to help promote women in the workplace?
I think you have to be careful about the word flexibility. The word flexibility, I think people think they can do whatever they want whenever they want. And I also think there's companies that use the word flexibility and it's just simply saying, well, you can take your lunch at 11:30 or 12:30. So as a company, you have to recognize that people in the workforce, male or female, but probably more particularly women, need that flexibility. They don't want the flexibility. They need the flexibility in order to live the life and the work-life balance that they want. So as a company, I think that's just something that we have to figure out, not after the fact, but right away. What are the flexibilities that a company is going to provide to their employees, to their managers, to their senior leadership? And that starts at the top and goes all the way down.